Hey, how's it going, everyone? We're here with the four of us. Oh my, hey Matt, you need to turn your lights. I'm just going to say that right now. I can't see your face very well.
Well, we can see too much of your face, Brett.
I know, and no one wants to see my face. But I'm Brett Chittum with Business Technicalities and CNWR. I'm here with
Jason Slagle, CNWR, and we'll go that way.
Point.
Tom Lawrence, CNWR.
You got a point,
Matt's
Tom.
on mute. Oh, point it. Well, he's only one left.
Yeah,
but I think he's on mute.
You're on mute, Matt.
Oh man, we can't hear you, Matt.
No, Matt muted himself.
Nope. This is what's good about live is we can't edit this out. We can't do, we do what we do in the time frame that we have, and here it is. So while Matt's figuring out his microphone, we all four of us got to go to an awesome IT Nation this year. I was talking with each and every one of our guys here on this live stream, and it was pretty impactful. There was a lot of great information. So I'm going to send up to you.
What? Yeah, I mean, it was good. So this is, and I've said this multiple times, right? Like, other than MSP GeekCon, right? And I'm pretty biased with that one. I'm one of the, I help organize it, and like, it's all my friends. It's all the people I hang out with when I go to shows. Other than that show, it's probably my second favorite show on the channel. And it's good. The content that I attended, which wasn't a ton, was really good. Because that's just, we can talk about that as we go through. But the content that I saw was good. My conversations with vendors was good. The energy was good. Other than the last night party was kind of mute. Didn't kind of get it. But generally I was very pleased with the content and the quality of the conference.
On the topic of the last night party, I heard some people say it was a little bit low energy, but I was actually happy that I could have conversations with people and didn't lose my voice. I didn't have to yell over a band or try to hide somewhere where it was like, that's part of the fun of me going there, is not just the talks or things like that can be interesting, but those conversations you have, the hallway track, as is often referred to. Those conversations are easily facilitated as long as there's not something overpowering you. So really, really loud music.
It was. I was fine with it just being a DJ. What was weird was the solid half hour or more where the DJ wasn't even playing and there was just no background audio. That's weird. It's really weird to have 1,000 people out there and there's just no background music.
Unsettling. No ambience.
Unsettling is a great word for it. As a matter of fact, it just doesn't feel right.
But real quick, you can hear me now, right?
Yes, we fixed it.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So, and there was a ridiculous amount of people there. That was insane attendance. I always when I think back about it, it's how many sessions did you actually go to? Do you ever skip a session block? And were they worthy? So I went to every single block and I loved pretty much all of my sessions. So
I went to 2 and I spoke at one of them.
I missed one block. Block, but
I was in another one and then I got called out to deal with that issue right after our talk, right? Because I had actually had planned to go to, right after Wes's talk, I had planned to go to that CPQ, that cell talk that you guys went to. I was in the room and I got called by Ray to come out and help that potential. I think it ended up being false positive, but there was an MSP that thought they might have been breached. So I thought it was probably a better use of my time to go help them than to sit and learn about Cell when we had 2 other people in the room. So let's go around the room and favorite sessions. Obviously I didn't go to very many, but Wes, Kyle and Alex were good from both the message. It actually resonated more than I thought it would. And the trolling of Wes was absolutely spectacular there. So I actually really enjoyed that. What about you, Tom? Did you go to sessions?
Yeah. I definitely, Kyle Hanselman's talk was really good. He talked about it was a nice follow-up for seeing a lot of the people that went to our talk where we talked about identity being what you really are focusing on protecting, that the come and grab that identity, pivot to the cloud. Lateral movement means the cloud now, and moving through how they can compromise the different services by stealing your session tokens. Kyle talked about that, but he also talked about the things that are obviously Huntress is doing, but he did kind of a call to action to other people, I think, to say, hey, you can do these things too, talking about how you make movements in the industry, how you make some changes that are very much for the positive. He mentioned about the number of DEF CON talks that his team had, their active participation in things, which I thought was just really good, or even taking the time like they did to the correlation data. There's a lot of good takeaways that for how do you look at things in a big picture and do the community. Now, I like Wes's talk a lot because it reminded me of the thing I'm good at and the thing I'm bad at the same time. I'm good at creating a lot of the content, teach people. I'm very bad at figuring out how to motivate people to want to learn. The hardest question for me to answer is people who walk up to me and go, "What should I do in tech?" I have no idea. I've always been focused on what I wanted to do. I don't know what you want to do. If you want to watch my videos, sure, I have a bunch of them, but which one to start with kind of depends on where your passions lie. And Wes talked a little bit about that. And I thought that was some good topics. They talked about training. It made some good references to like the challenge that Panera Bread has in any fast food chain, really, when you talk about how do you train people? How do you train people when you have a short life of that employee working there? How do you get it from tribal knowledge to documentation? And how do you figure out who's good at training? Because the varied quality, as was pointed out in the Panera Bread example, is you're right. There's some Panera Breads I don't like, and some locations I do like because the people are more well trained. How do you find people who are really good at training? Because it's not everyone's default discipline.
Well, assuming you start with level 1, you hire mostly level 1 techs, right? Like, I think that thing that people don't realize, that I didn't realize for a long time in my entire career, I've never had a job that wasn't in tech. I never worked at fast food. I never worked in food service. Like, I started at 17 working tech support for an ISP, which later honestly became CNWR. I did leave for like a 15-year stint in the middle of that. But I thought to work in tech, you had to be a software developer, right? Like in my mind, that was what being a tech guy was. And then I started working tech support at the ISP and realized that you can make a career out of systems administration. And as a matter of fact, I liked that better than developing. Yeah. I get just a taste of it, right? Because I write bash scripts. I pasted, I think, a one-liner awk script that I ended up converting to Python into shell the other day and probably made Matt cry a little bit. But yeah, it is a really, really deep concept. How about you, Matt? What's your favorite talk?
I really enjoyed Wes's talk. I mean, we had been talking internally about like how we are going to handle like internal curriculum, internal labs, and all of this for a long time. And I felt like was able to grab some information from that I think we can kind of like build some process around and really help to improve, helping our techs better themselves and spreading the knowledge in between everyone. So really liked that. And then I went to an odd one that is off the beaten path of it was one that was more focused on mental health and ways to like handle mental health, not just for yourself, but for your entire staff. And, once again, building some process around that so that everyone's kind of understanding the language around what that looks like. And that was really good. I really enjoyed both of those talks. It's funny to hear what other people take away from the talks, because I'm very like, this is how I'm going to change the way that I manage people and how I like build process. And then I hear other people take away from that same talk, like, oh yeah, they went over like this interesting technology that they're, talking about. So,
to a certain extent, I think that speaks to maturity, right? Because Wayne and I will argue whether it's people are process first, right? But it's people, process, technology, and we can argue whether or not you put the person before the process or process before the person. But all of it comes before technology, and I think that as you mature as a person and as an organization, you increasingly realize that is actually the case. And so I think when you talk to the people and the only thing they're taking away from it is a tool, they're still in the mindset that they can just tool their way out of problems.
Yeah.
How about you, Brett?
I totally agree with that.
Yeah. Well, I had two really my two favorites. One was actually a track for the whole day on Friday, which was cool, which was boss or babysitter. That was really cool. And actually, he actually shared a number of things with the entire class via email with all his documentation on how he goes through that and the whole exercise of it. And for me, working with the sales team, you kind of become both in some respects, but there's a fine line between, being a micromanager and a babysitter to being a true leader. which was kind of cool. And then the other one was delivering a powerful sales presentation. That one was really good too. And actually, right after that, I ended up calling Lori and saying, you listen to this. These are the different things we need to start focusing on. It was actually really cool.
Yeah, it's so a caution or a lesson that I think I've taken away from these over time is that if you come out of them with 16 million things you want to do and you try to do all of them, you will succeed at none of them. Right. So it's been my big thing that, like, what are the 1 to 3? Actually, usually my question is, what are the 3 takeaways we got from this and which one are we going to work on? Right. Let's pick your top 3. Let's put all 3 of those on a list, but let's pick one of them and march it forward, because we can't do 16 at once. Matt, your team, I think, oftentimes is trying to do 16 things at once, increasingly less. But I think that we've learned over time that is a path for just burning yourself out in insanity.
Yeah, I mean, I really like to be overly transparent, and sometimes it is something that I shouldn't do. But the first thing, I mean, we were coming back, and I'm like, I want to get started on this right away. Like, I do not want to waste a second. I don't want it to flutter out of my mind, goldfish it. So I just started posting, like, in our Slack channels about, hey, these are the 3 big things that I want to focus on. Because if everyone on the team knows about it, there's some sort of holding people accountable there where, you know, they can bring up, hey, I thought that we were going to do that.
Hey, so Matt, this thing, it's called a notebook.
I don't use those.
And if you put the things in your brain in there, you don't lose them.
I sat next to Matt, and he typed it out. He was typing it out word for word, man. I watched him.
I mean, I'm pretty good at, like, it took me, I didn't post my little recap thing to the channel until like Sunday afternoon, right? Because it took me a little bit of time to decompress. But I do, when I do attend talks that warrant it, I have been trying to use Obsidian. I think I've used almost every note-taking app out there at some point or another. I've not successfully. Tom and I have had a fairly. This would be a great business technicalities talk, actually. I really want to try to get to Second Brain, because I am like the goldfish that combine. I'm like Dory, right? It's like I get this like brilliant idea and I work on it for a little bit and then it's just gone and it never comes back. And so I'm trying to unoccupy my brain with some of those things. So I've been trying to take notes when I do go to things. It's a little harder for me. I have a. I'm still, regardless of what people may realize, I'm still a relatively nervous speaker. We had a 1 p.m. Thursday talk, right? So that kind of grenaded all of Thursday morning for me. Admittedly, I did end up, I went out on the 5K. There was a 5K. We had the biggest turnout I've had at an event at a 5K. There were what, Matt, like 50 people there?
Wow.
Yeah, and it was not a 5K, it was a 6K. We were clearly lied to. Then I had to get my gym workout in because I procrastinated it on Wednesday. And then after that, I just kind of sat and decompressed. And then we had to do our slides because we had mostly done. I think we finished our slide deck and finished our dry run through, 20 minutes before we went on stage?
Yeah. 12:40 was when we were finishing it up.
Yeah.
Well, that's not bad. That's better than finishing it up while you're on stage. I mean, hey, I will tell you, that was a good talk. I've seen that talk since its infancy, right? I saw it first in Chicago when you guys did it, and it has morphed into something where you pack a room.
It's also interesting. The other metamorphosis we've seen is the number of people that actually raised their hands only a year later that understood conditional access tokens, understood the threats and how those threats were being used in the modern, TTPs. So it was really cool to see so many people we actually had more hands raised than we did at IT Nation Secure, which is supposed to be the focused on security event. So this was really cool to see event evolution. Like, hey, everyone remembers either the talk last times. I know I've seen a lot of familiar faces and just the general awareness on this. We're having better cybersecurity talks here in 2023 coming into 2024 than we did previously. And that kind of goes across the board. I felt at IT Nation, it's not about if you need or anything like that. It's more about how you're going to implement now.
Yeah, it's actually from a high level business standpoint, it's awesome to see, but it's also somewhat of a problem because it used to be that you could use security as a differentiator, and it's becoming less the case that you can do that because now it's becoming table stakes, which I love to see. but also it's tightening up the competitiveness of the landscape, right? So, eventually it'll come down to who is just talking the talk and who is walking the walk, I think, right? So you'll still start to see like what I'm a little bit afraid of.
Right.
You'll get people that aren't actually, they're saying they're doing some of the things, they're not doing them well, and they'll still get popped. And we're still right back in the situation where like the name of the MSP gets muddied because of it.
I mean, it's that one. It's people doing, okay, you can do conditional access, but okay, how many of your client CEOs are in that exception list? There are additional steps that need to be taken there, and that keeps on changing. So they're making constant changes to additional features to the conditional access based on the threats that are out in the wild. So it's going to continue to be a moving target. So
let's see. So let's talk about the keynotes.
AI,
hyper focus. So I actually
hyper automation.
That's what it was. Oh my god!
I think that the delivery of the keynotes is probably one of the better deliveries I've seen, especially from McGee. I commented to this when I was talking to him. That was the best I think I've seen him speak. He seemed like he was reading from he didn't seem like he was reading from the prompter as much as he normally seems like he was reading from the prompter. But I found I did find the visualizations in the backgrounds distracting, especially that hyper automation one. It's like seared into my mind because the loop was kind of broken. And every time
that's why it was done that way, man.
What? So you wouldn't pay attention to who was speaking? Like, I don't understand it.
They were having an issue with those
subliminal message.
The overlays were having an issue where you could see the video of the actual presenter.
Well, so what I will say is I know how the sausage is made, right? And so I've been backstage, and what they do is at the beginning of that talk or at the beginning of the conference, they get the presentation deck and they have to pick a chroma key color because all that stuff is downstream keying. And so they have to pick a chroma key color that they use to basically mask out. And they usually pick a color that's not present in the presentation. And it usually ends up being a hot pink. In those couple of spots where you could see him bleeding through in the background, there were elements in there that were slightly pink. And that's exactly what you were getting, is that they just missed those when they went to the slide talk. But that is ridiculously distracting.
Yeah.
Now, the content of it comes down to delivery. Like, did they tell us and show us that, yes, there's some cool AI functions that we can do to build some automations to make it a little less clunky using the Connectivize tools? How will that play out in reality is going to be my question. We've seen some really basic things like adding a user and tying that together, but understand, I still have my own security concerns about that, of making it so easy to use. What if it misinterprets your command and says, oh, you want 30 users named this or something like that? Will you be able to unwind something at the same scale you can create it at?
Yeah, it's I have concerns over packaging and pricing, right? Like, to me, I understand the RPA being a separate product, but like, when your big keynote things are new things I can buy from you, that stings a little bit, right? It's like basically, I've got nothing other than some bug fixes as a customer to move the products forward, and everything you're adding now, clearly the precedent is set that every new feature you add is going to be locked behind a paywall.
Yeah, I can agree with that. That's definitely a challenge. And it's also, they could make the interface easier. So we slapped AI on top of a hard to use interface, as opposed to the competing products that go, well, why is the interface bad? Let's just start with a better looking interface, so things are more intuitive, things are easier. That's kind of my takeaway. It's like, we use AI to fix the problem we don't want to refactor code to fix.
Yeah, maybe. Those are... Yeah, that'll happen over time. I mean, we use transparently. We use manage. Go ahead, Brett. Go ahead.
I saw it differently, though. I'm going to tell you, because we have been working on some automations here since day one of the merger, right? And I think it's the wave of the future. It's not though who you use; it's what tools are going to work for you. Because we use some different tools for automation right now. But I don't think it's an important aspect. I think it's an important
I don't think you can. Go ahead, finish your thought.
Go ahead. No, I'm done. I'm good.
The problem is I can hear you speaking in the other, because he's just in the other room. So I hear him pause and I think he's done
Hi.
speaking. And then I start talking and we end up talking over each other. I don't
This
think
is
you
a
can be
real
an MSP
background.
these days and not do some sort of automation and be successful, right? Like your
Mhm.
costs end up being too high if you're not doing some sort of automation at this point, or they will be, right? Like you need those things to hit industry acceptable tech to workstation ratios and other things. The question is, to what level does AI play into those things and AI interpreting commands and, AI doing things? And, we're starting to tinker with that. We don't have a lot of it yet. I did mention in my little update yesterday that I did on LinkedIn, I stood up, I have private GPT running on my laptop. It's actually pretty quick on my M2 MacBook, like it'll spit out answers in like 10 seconds, which I was shocked. Running the language model locally, I was shocked at how it's actually not, it's very usable. But I do think there's use cases for stuff like that, but I'm not quite sure. Like we had a brief foray into tinkering with, what was it, setting type, subtype, and then determining customer sentiment. And the bot
like
became
additional
sentient.
notes and everything.
Yeah, the bot became sentient and was talking to itself.
Yeah, it was telling people where to go to lunch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On lunch tickets. Yeah. It was crazy.
Oh,
I missed the
no
trigger drop.
way.
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
I mean, it's not perfect yet. AI is something that's an ever evolving, right? We still don't have a completely self-driving car. We still can't. We still need human interaction in things. So
Yeah, I just think that what they were showing is, so props to them for doing live demos, and that was really cool because I
was
want to see
cool.
how it actually works. But the examples that they gave, I just think that there's that's a big leap between the examples that they showed into us actually using them and it be worth it. Like, especially when it's an additional product. Like, I'm not going to pay more for that right now. Like, it's not super functional. Really.
And I mean, I asked, what it would take to get Sidekick, and apparently you can't get it without the RPA because they're intertwined. And it's like, well, I don't want the RPA. I already have an RPA. I don't want to use that. And there's apparently no ability to get one without the other right now, which is kind of sad. We'll just build our own inside of our Slack.
Yeah, that's unfortunate because the Sidekick stuff was actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it being in Teams was unfortunate because we don't really use Teams and stuff. But I mean, we use a lot of tools that function in that way. And that was one that it looked like it actually worked. And I would actually have used that if we could pipe it into Slack.
Yeah,
so.
if it was Slack and it wasn't part of RPA, we would probably be using it today.
Yep, for sure.
Let's see. So vendor hall, let's go there. We haven't done vendor hall yet. Favorite vendor?
I mean, Huntress.
Yeah.
They're always fun to hang out with. They have
they're
all
the
cool
only
swag
ones.
cool shirts.
They're the only ones I got swag from. I'm just going to tell you.
Yeah, I mean,
they had a cool desktop pad.
Were they giving those away?
Yeah, you have to only for people
Only
who
special
asked
people.
and if they liked you.
Oh,
really?
Apparently they cost
They
as
don't
much
like
as 3
you,
shirts.
Jason.
Yeah, they're like $20-$30. So
yeah, I have one now at my home. I'm not bringing it anywhere near here because Jason will take it.
I mean, I have my LTT one on my desk here. I could have replaced it with the Huntress one. I will have to hassle them.
Yeah, they'll send them. They said this. They said just ask. We'll send them to you. They told me that because I didn't want to grab it at the time, and they said just message us. You know how to get a hold of us.
Yeah,
I was unimpressed overall with the vendors. It's no one has come up with innovation. As I feel like it's like, okay, we got some costumes, and I missed the point of some of them maybe because I was just confused. I was like, is that Groot? I don't know. What am I seeing?
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
like, so you did some things to get attention, but there was a few motorcycles, so that was slightly different. But it's funny that more than one vendor had that as an idea, but none of them really come up with anything that really grabs me, and I don't really know. I don't know what would be the right solution because I don't know what would grab me. I'm holding though a pen, one of those multicolored pens with the clicks. I did tell a couple of them. I have this. I've had this for a couple of years. A vendor gave this to me. These are silly, but I have one in grade school, and they're still cool to me to click and play with. But outside of that, there's not. Most of them weren't overly impressed there. Some at least were nice to talk to though. Like I generally didn't get any shady vibes from them being overly pushy. Well, one said something. He says, "We're the MSP version of Okta," and I was like, with the recent news of Okta, I don't know that's your opening line. And he kinda laughed.
There were definitely a couple of them that I talked to them for a minute or witnessed people talking to them, because I usually try not to talk to them because I don't want them to get my badge. But there were a couple I talked to or was witnessing people, so I usually eavesdrop. I couldn't tell what they did.
Yeah.
Oh, Matt has
that
a
was an
great
issue.
story.
not
Matt
telling that
has a
story.
wonderful.
I'm not going to shame anyone, but I spent it. So my wife came with us and she was like, "Why don't you talk to people?" And I don't normally talk to people because I don't want to get scanned and blasted. So she was like, "You should talk to people." I went through basically every single and one of the booths I spent probably 30 minutes at that I could not get out of this conversation. Like, short of just turning around and like just totally ignoring the person, they would not let me go. That was very painful. And yeah, that's the one that Brett's talking about, because as soon as I got out of earshot, I was like, I'm never using that product because it was that bad.
Yeah. We have, I mean, I have,
I just want to get you.
I just am not, I'm going to go over here now. And then I just walk away. Like I
tried. Like it was bad. And I couldn't tell what they were like. I was trying to get.
They had them surrounded.
Oh, so you're this. Oh, so you're this. No, we're not that. We do it differently. We're doing it this way. Oh, okay. So you're doing this. No, we're an all-encompassing product. No, you're not. Like you're not doing those things.
Yeah, you should probably publish a top 5 don'ts for vendors. Like, don't tell me your solution replaces 10 plus tools.
Yeah.
Please explain what you do, not in marketing speak, on your website, so I can at least figure out what product category you're in. Me and Jason, we poked a little bit at one of the people.
Yeah.
We never really followed much
person.
They scanned us, so I'm sure we'll hear from them. We already know they're in their list because they've been emailing both me and Jason. But they were once again following some of the vendor no-nos and making some tall claims, and they didn't seem like an absolutely terrible product, but I don't like the overstated marketing terms they had.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a security product and you tell me you're going to replace 5 other security products, I'm not going to use you.
10 plus was the opening line. We place 10 plus of your current products.
Yeah.
Even more, if you're a security product and I ask you like, okay, so where can I see like the actual logs for like how this is like what you're seeing, how this is running through? Oh, we don't show you that data. Because, who needs to see that data? Are you kidding me? Like, I need to see that data.
Yeah, if you're a SIM and I can't get to the back end data, you're done. I'm not going to talk to you anymore, right? Like I need to be able to at least, like, there's a couple of them that I think are okay, and maybe I have to reach out to somebody to get access to it. But there are several of them that it's like, oh no, we got this. Like we do this so you don't have to. I'm like, but SIM, like centralized log collecting by its very nature suggests that I essentially have the logs, and if I don't, then I don't, right? Like so basically you leave me in the category of having to trust that your team is getting all the data out of it. And if I have an incident, you stick me in a box where I may not be able to do forensics on it because I just don't have access to the backend logs to try to correlate data that may not be directly related. So that's a struggle too.
Yeah. You really want that information. You want to understand what decision led to this. This is discussions we've had on when something was determined false positive. They had telemetry. We compared it to other telemetry we had. We're like, this is not a false positive. And, I did a whole video on that topic, but it's because we had the logs is what we're using as the evidence to have this discussion.
I will tell you, if I were in the vendor space today and I saw Jason Slagle walking up to my booth, I would probably turn away. I'm just going to say, I have seen you at work, Jason, when you question and you, I think you just actually try to talk through the product and go, well, how does it do that? How does it do this? And those poor people sitting there that are just salespeople can't explain it to you.
So I only have foggier memories of this, but apparently on Tuesday night when we got in, when I was staying out way too late, I got into it with some vendor that just kept trying to hard sell me and just wouldn't let it go. So I ripped their product apart to them.
Oh no.
Connor was telling me, he's like, oh my God, it was epic. Alex and I were over here just cracking up laughing.
Oh my gosh, that's fun. Oh, somebody would love to get one of those Finn shirts.
Yeah.
How about this? Use them. Use Finn. You'll get a shirt.
Vampire.
The vendors, yeah.
Yeah, Tom and I are going to MISEC.
Yep.
MISEC on Friday. I don't know if it's MISEC or MISEC or MISEC, but we're going up to a security conference on Friday just to hang out for the day. What else? What other takeaways do we have? How about the hallway track? That's the last thing I think we haven't covered here.
I ran into a lot of people. I had a great conversation with the people from Microsoft. I thought they were really cool. Huntress had brought them in. They had a book signing. Epically, Matt Lee stuck his foot in his mouth in the most epic way. Because
he did.
Every good embarrassment story starts with, "Oh, I didn't realize you were the author." And so that it was a lot of fun. Basically, Matt Lee made fun of the book, not realizing he was talking to the author and head of the development.
He was actually making fun of the product, not the book. So he was making fun of the fact that the product is moving so fast that anything you write down about it is out of date tomorrow. Not realizing that the author of the book is actually the product manager of the product.
Right.
So he controls that.
But the conversation with them was really good overall. Like, they were great to talk to. And there's a handful of other people that were just those random people you meet, just sit down and have a conversation with them. Some of them were just there, like at the Top Golf. I ended up just going from place to place, sitting down, seeing the people I know, like Tony Francisco and them that I talk to all the time, but then meeting a few other people, just having some deep conversations on that. There's actually some talks that came up because me and Jason were talking about a security incident from July 4th that we still haven't really debriefed on because there's some technical gaps. Like, we know what was done, but the video would only be interesting if we know how it was done. And someone said it was impossible. Someone said it's possible if this happened. But those conversations got kicked off so we can have a deeper conversation overall about what happened, so we can bring that information forward. And that's something, you don't see in the groups, so to speak, necessarily from the talks, but it's from those interactions of how something happened. It's just, you have these open discussions, but they're kind of hard to have open on the public internet quite as much. But once you're in person, it really falls into place because we can just talk openly. This is here's the scenario, which we can talk about more freely here as we're trusted people, and what led to this, but we're not sure how this happened.
I always come away from these things feeling like I didn't get enough time to talk to the people that I wanted to talk to, because there's just that is one negative. There are so many people there that you end up having to float around, and you get increasingly I'm getting what I'm going to call tommed, which is you can't walk more than 2 minutes without somebody stopping you to talk to you about something, which is good. It's also one relatively draining. Shockingly, I am relatively introverted, and I have an easier time talking to a crowd than I do to a single person in many cases. And so it's definitely a little draining to me, but it also takes away time from people that I wanted to hang out with. Like, I didn't spend nearly as much time with Kelvin as I wanted to, and Ash and those guys. I did the one night, but we never even ended up connecting essentially on the last night, which was somewhat unfortunate. But always a good time.
I think I met more people in SeaWorld while you guys were all riding rides, and I was on my own little adventure.
Yeah, SeaWorld was fun. The coasters were fun.
I walked around the park twice, and I met a lot of people doing that.
So a feedback I will give them is, like, please next year don't put the 5K on the same day as the event where we have to walk a ton. I had 30,000 steps on Thursday. I walked 15.2 miles between my walking and my running, and as a result, I was just done on Friday. I was just mentally and physically wiped out. I was in bed by midnight, and then come to find out, Matt stayed up till 2, and then I was all bummed. But I was in a situation where my legs and feet hurt enough that I couldn't stand. And then when I sat, I was falling asleep. So I was talking to somebody on LinkedIn that recommended some insoles. So I might try to get some insoles and see if it helps with sore feet. Because walking around on concrete, even just that, it's really, it hurts by the end of the day.
Yeah. You wear your Keens when you go?
Have some good cushion.
No, I had these Merrills on, and they're fine. Sometimes I had my running shoes. I should have just kept my running shoes on.
I kept my running shoes on.
Yeah.
It's still painful, but just being on your feet for that long, it's it's painful.
Well, and the floors are all concrete.
I love talking to random I love talking to random MSPs though, and I got a chance pretty much every night to do that, which is why I was staying up until 2:00 in the morning all the time. But that was awesome. I mean, there was a guy who was like a 6-person company that sat down with us for a while that we were talking to.
The one that poor Brett was like,
Yeah. And I
twisting the knife over and over.
Yeah.
Wait. Not me. Not
100%
not me,
you.
Brett. What?
100%
you.
You spent like 20 minutes telling him he was messing everything up.
Well,
Did
it's
I
just
really?
interesting. Yes, you totally did. Okay.
Damn it.
So it's interesting to see people that are at different points in that journey. Like, I mean, talking to people that are way further along than we are, and where they're at. And I love having those conversations because you can help them so much. I mean, I remember when we were smaller and we went and had conversation with people, and there's definitely a certain amount of, oh, there's no way I should be doing that. There's no way. We're different. It's not going to be like
You're
that.
not different.
You're not. Yeah, you're going to go through the exact same experience that everyone else has. It's going to be slightly different, but it's great. I love talking with people like that. Have a great time.
Yep. I think we're reaching a natural end. What do you think?
Yeah. Do you have
think
anything
so.
more to add, Brett?
I think me. No, I think that was this is probably the best conference I'd been to with the content I was able to go to within the breakout sessions. For me, there was some really good content.
Are you a
on the
boss or a
sales
babysitter?
aspect
Which
side.
one?
We're a little bit of both right now, but that's because of
Right.
the newness of things.
Fair enough.
Well, hold on. Let me ask that question, Matt. Are you a boss or babysitter?
I'm a boss, 100%.
He's a babysitter up and a boss down.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I actually do. Yep. Yeah. No, I do not. I have no interest in like micromanaging people. Like I just,
Yeah. Which actually
I
is a
also
problem.
can't.
It's actually, well, I mean, you have too many direct reports.
Exactly. I have too many direct reports. I just can't even micromanage.
Some people require more direct management, though, and they can be very effective people, but there are certain personality types that do require a little more, at least task-oriented work, right? Where it's like you can't just give them a thing that needs done. You have to give them the tasks to get there. And I think it's short-sighted to ignore that population to not hire them because they may require some work. So I think at some point you do have to be both.
Yeah. Well, like I said in the beginning, that there's a fine line between that when you're leading people. It's a human thing, right? We are all human, and we're going to falter. We're going to make mistakes. Tom's write-up the other day, I loved what you put on LinkedIn, and I think you put it on Facebook as well.
Yeah.
The write-up about, one of the things, mistake is a form of done. Making, it's there. You've got to make mistakes. You're going to fail, but how do you learn from that?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, it's I spent a better part of my career just fluttering from mistake to mistake. And, the trick is to just not allow the mistakes to become fatal. Right. And being able to recover from them quickly. And I think that's it's actually really hard from a teaching standpoint because and I think Matt can attest to this. It can tend to make people reckless. That I have comfort level on the technical side of wading into problems that you reasonably shouldn't necessarily wade into without a whole lot of prep work, because I'm confident that if I fuck it up, and I swore on this, but we're 39 minutes in, so we're fine, that I can undo it later. And we've definitely had techs, including Matt here, that have taken that same approach, and they can't necessarily fix it when they break it. So they go and they do break it, and then they're like, Jason, help.
To be fair, the immediate one that comes to mind whenever we have a conversation like this, I'm pretty confident that no one in our company, other than maybe you and Tom, could have actually fixed that problem.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. So I also went to that boss or babysitter session for the first one. I've been in several of Peter Melby's talks. Super great guy, like has done a great job. That session is amazing. And I think that the thing that people are missing sometimes is that additional structure, people enjoy additional structure at times. Having it clear what expectations are and what, the confines of this is where you exist to be able to make mistakes. That is super valuable to people. And that's what we should be doing, as opposed to like really confining.
Human nature is to get structure.
Yeah.
I think we need structure as humans, or else we flail around like Jason. No, sorry, Jason.
I don't know. I have a focus problem. That is for sure. It is something I'm working on.
Jason's my boss, by the way. So I just said that to my boss. Sorry, Jason.
Yeah, whatever. If we ever get to a point where you feel like you can't say that to me, then I have failed.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right. I think we're good.
Yeah, I think we're good.
I think it's time to end this thing. Jason, what do you think?
I think it's good. Any final thoughts? I'll give mine first. Again, these sort of events, most events, not all events, but most events energize me. Like they, shockingly enough, they recharge my want to do things battery, and I come away like excited and amped up again. And then the business will drain it away just with life, and it happens. And then I'll go to another event and I'll get recharged again. Next one for me, I have a year-end planning meeting, which isn't really a conference coming up, but the next one for me is probably Write a Boom. Honestly, Code Mash. The next real conference for me is Code Mash. That's not till January, so I have a pretty long gap here to try to keep my battery full. What are you, Tom?
We got a lot to work.
Yeah, same thing. It's exciting. I start thinking about how we can automate things, how we can bring people in, because it does drain you when you're trying to deal with. There's the people who are really motivated, and there's all these other people that they're functional. They just sometimes need a little more pushing, and they can be a little bit draining while you push them into categories. So you these conferences do the same thing and get me kind of invigorated again.
Yeah. Right.
Yep. I learned, I'll tell you, I took away some stuff for the team. I took away some stuff for myself. It's Matt, you said it perfectly. We can't do all the stuff we learned about, right? We got to break them out. We got to pick those top three. And I think, Jason, you said the same thing. And I'm going to look at the top three of things that I've taken away and implement.
And Matt.
Yeah, same thing. I mean, I was on the low of burning myself out, and I really honestly didn't want to go. But then I went because I was like, I'm just going to burn myself out more. But it was the total opposite feeling. It was great to see everyone. Wish it honestly could have lasted longer, and I'm ready to rock.
Physically exhausted, mentally stimulated.
Yeah, I was out of energy. So if it could have gone 2 more days, actually, I would have been okay if it had gone 1 more day because I went to bed early on Friday. But that's the maximum number of days I can go out late.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's wrap this. Until next time, everyone. It's been great talking to you, and we'll see you later.
Later.
End us out, Jason.
Yep. Bye-bye.